Kriti, you will first mention, then we'll start, right?
Yes. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kriti Sharma from Team Taxmann, and I welcome you all in today's live webinar on the Demystifying Environmental Social Governance ESG framework. But before we proceed, I shall take this opportunity to briefly introduce Taxmann. We are India's leading publisher of tax and corporate laws, committed to offering our users the most authentic and enriching experience. Our goal is to simplify the research and compliance for the legal community. Now, everyone, please welcome our esteemed speaker. Firstly, we have with us Dr. Garima Dadhich. She is an internationally recognized scholar in the ESG stream. She also heads the National Foundation for Corporate Social Responsibility and the Center for Business and Human Rights at IICA. She holds a PhD in corporate governance and an LLM in commercial and corporate laws from Queen's Mary University, London. Our second speaker, Dr. Ravi Raj Atrey. He is a well acclaimed scholar and a diversified professional. He has authored the book Exploring CSR, where he propounded the famous tree model of CSR. He holds PhD in CSR and master's level degree in economics, social work, business administration, human rights, and international law and diplomacy. He has been behind various social and governance reform movements in the country. During his 2 decades of rich experience with several ministries, civil society organizations, academic institutions, and consulting and corporate firms, he worked in good governance, human rights, social development, CSR, and sustainability and ESG. Before we begin, here are a few tips for the audience. Your mic will be on mute during the session. However, you can post your questions in the chat box provided. The speakers will answer your queries either during or after the session. A copy of the presentation will be sent to you via email for future reference. So without further ado, I will request the speakers to address the audience. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kriti. Very good afternoon to all the delegates who are here for this very interesting webinar. At the outset, let me thank Taxmann to basically organize this webinar on such an important aspect. Now, before moving further to the what we have done in this specific book and what we have envisaged, why it has been written, let us just understand that the acronym ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, is not something new. This has been referred, even in the year 2005, and there are a lot of research wherein this has been even linked back to our trusteeship theory as well. But suddenly we have seen a multifold growth. If we see the internet searches for ESG, or even if we see the job requirement in the domain of ESG, there is a lot of focus, and there is a lot of commitment required, not from just the corporates but from a multi-stakeholder approach. So across industries, geographies, company sizes, organizations, they all have been allocating more resources towards sustainability, right? So first, let us understand the mystery. When we say we are demystifying ESG, what is the mystery in this specific aspect? The first important point is that solutions to sustainability, as we know, and if we talk about ESG, there's a lot of focus on any common man will also start talking on environment aspect nowadays, that there's so much of climate change, and even the concept of the sustainable development goals, for which we all are working to achieve by the year 2030, and the fact that the SDGs are nowadays even taught to primary years program also, like grade 4, 5, 6 onwards. There is a need to find out that what are the solutions to sustainability, right? So firstly, that it's not just a role of a business alone, the government is working towards achieving SDG, and each individual has a significant role in ensuring the sustainability aspect. Now, let's not go to the the definition of sustainability, and but primarily when we talk about sustainability, it's about taking care of present as well as future generation. That's a very common understanding. Now, second, even in the first point, I would like to talk that what is sustainability and ESG the similar thing? So we need to understand, and there's a lot of debate. People say the sustainability is a broad, and this has been, since ages, everybody was focusing on that. So why suddenly the ESG is taking all the attention? But let me tell you that when we talk about ESG, the spirit of ESG is sustainability, right? So when we talk individually for all the three pillars of environment, social, or governance, or if we talk about the interface of all these three pillars, it's primarily about providing solutions to sustainability. Solutions means we all know that that there is a need to come up with this carbon neutrality, net zero aspect. But what are the solutions? How we can achieve that particular challenge? And for that, again, there are a lot of other, I would say, micro subjects evolving from sustainability and ESG, such as sustainable finance. Because when we say that we have to, think of the this renewable energy, how we are going to maintain it, what is the infrastructure, how we are getting the finances. So that is what the mystery is, that there are solutions to sustainability, but primarily to understand how to achieve, how to practice those solutions. Then the life for our upcoming generations, as I highlighted, that it's, when we talk about the definition of stakeholders, we have been talking from the corporate governance days about the definition of stakeholder, wherein in the initial years, we just thought that, there is a stakeholder which can include employees and customers, not more than that. But in today's world, when the definition of stakeholder has been extended to even the natural resources, and the fact that there is a lot of recognition towards all those stakeholders in our statute. For example, Companies Act, section 166, which talks about directors' duties towards environment also. So that's what that we have to think of, that individual perspective, that how we are ensuring for our upcoming generations there are enough natural resources and they can live with whatever the natural resources can offer. Third is about the extent of climate change. So see, the rising profile of ESG, that is, we would say that is plainly evident in the investments. Even while the rate of new investment has been falling, the inflows into sustainable funds, for example, if we go, there is a $70 billion in 2021. These funds gained 87 billion of net new money. So what I'm trying to say, that the major part of ESG growth has been driven by the environmental component of ESG, and that responses to the climate change. There are other components of ESG also, the social dimensions. I'm not saying that we have prioritized it, but the major part is about the response to climate change. And as we know, in a layman's language, as we know what we are breathing nowadays, AQI level and everything. So that's how we can, demystify, how we can work towards those specific challenges. Then we have something called limited natural resources. This is, we all know that whether we talk about water or we talk about, even the fresh air, everything, the natural resources has been declining, right? And then we feel that there are a lot of government schemes and everything, which is working on that particular aspect, but that requires more of a multi-stakeholder approach to demystify this problem. Then another is increasing inequality, and this is not something new, right? We have been facing this since long, but even, we can even refer to the latest, war in Ukraine. and ensuing this human tragedy, as well as this cumulative geopolitical, economic, and the societal effects, the critics have argued that the importance of ESG has peaked during that time, because there is a lot of attention and shift towards the foundation elements of a hierarchy of public and private sector needs and so forth. So we have to ensure that how we can balance this thing, or in other words, how we can ensure the interest of multi-stakeholders. And with this, now we come to the role of business. So till here, it's not just for business, it's for everybody, it's for our individual also. But when we talk about role of businesses, and we understand, and there is no debate, rather it's a strong business case that businesses can play a huge role in demystifying these challenges and addressing those challenges rather. So the role of business, if we talk about in the ESG framework, people say that what is the act where there is which statute we refer to understand the role of businesses in ESG. And the answer is that you need to refer all of the statutes, because the role of businesses, as per our existing laws and regulations, has always been emphasizing that the business has to take care of the environment, of the community, of the labor, of the migrant labor, the contractual labor, the temporary labor, ensure, disclose even the pay of the highest pay and the minimum pay. So there is we can actually see the inequality also. So businesses have been doing this since long, but here now we have a framework for businesses, which means that when we talk about ESG in India, the framework is now we refer to the business responsibility and sustainable reporting for all the listed companies. So we'll talk about that also, that framework has been basically derived from a parent document of National Guidelines of Responsible Business Conduct. But what we are trying to say here is that there in India, and we are basically proud to say that we have a framework to assist businesses to disclose on ESG parameters. Now let's understand that how we define ESG, right? There are a lot of definitions available. There are theories which we try to analyze all those theories. And then, there's an attempt also that what exactly is ESG. So it's something, I would not say that this definition is best or that definition is better. Rather, I would say that there are definitions by CFA, there are definitions by all Big Fours, Deloitte, and the internationally also Robeco, then Wharton and Garrison has defined. So what we are trying to say here is that ESG refers to a collection of corporate performance evaluation criteria that assess the robustness of a company's governance mechanism and its ability to effectively manage its environmental and social impact. So several definitions are there. I've just narrated once, but what we have done in this specific book also is that we have actually redefined ESG, wherein we means that, and we are consciously using this word, that ESG is a fundamental responsibility of business. So we know about fundamental rights and duties, right, of individual under the Constitution. But here we are saying that ESG is a fundamental responsibility of business to adapt, to integrate, and to disclose, right? So first is about adapting it, wherein they understand the business case. The second is about integrating. So it's not just having a ESG policy, but about how to integrate into the operations, even into the value chain, and so forth. And then disclosing it on your public platform, and wherein, the more we are transparent, which clearly highlights that the more we are focusing on that specific aspect. So ESG is a fundamental responsibility of business to adapt, integrate, and disclose its commitment towards sustainability. So it basically provides a yardstick, to the businesses. So wherein they can measure their commitment towards stakeholders, right? And as I said, that the stakeholder, we have even tried to come up with some solar system models. We have defined the stakeholders, and we have not prioritized. We cannot really say that which stakeholder is important. But what we are trying to say is that it's a unique opportunity for businesses to measure, their commitment towards stakeholders. If we talk about the theory, my colleague would talk about it in detail, the co-author. And when we talk about the other aspects of the model for integration and the Indian context, let me mention that in Indian context, ESG is about national guidelines of responsible business conduct. What does this mean? This means that there are guidelines which has been endorsed by our Honorable Prime Minister and the former Finance Minister, which has 9 principles. And those 9 principles are very, very broad. They talks about governance aspect, integrity, ethics. They talk about, the customers. They talk about the business and human rights, which is again a very upcoming and evolving aspect. They talk about the environment, that the circular approach and the life cycle assessment, and thinking from cradle to grave approach. So it gives an opportunity for businesses to think from all that aspect. And the beauty of the document is that it provides the basic questions. It provides a specific questions wherein we can actually disclose it. So for example, it talks about, in each principle there are 4 elements, and then there are essential indicators and leadership indicators. So it helps businesses to disclose their commitment or to aspire towards disclosing the leadership indicators. So now, till a few years back, the companies were only thinking about providing trainings to their employees or to the max, even the contractual people. But now it even talks about, the entire supply chain aspect, that the training has to be provided to those people also. Then there are, as I said, that NGRBC has been basically taken by SEBI, and they have released their business responsibility and sustainable reporting. Now, if we talk about those, dimensions of environment, social, and governance, let me just mention that, in all these aspects, we have tried to analyze very specifically what all under E aspect, how to basically, go ahead. It helps the professionals to understand and plan their strategy towards not just, for example, if they have to do a materiality assessment, right? If they have to have their own policies within the businesses. So this helps in somewhere, planning and approaching towards a specific issue step by step. Now, if we talk about the social aspect, probably I would simply say that, it talks about social dimensions such as the social risk to businesses. So here we have included even the diversity and inclusion, the gender equity, the business and human rights, the community relations, health and safety, corporate social responsibility, and product safety, etc. So all these information, pertaining to this key social impact certifications, measurement, and importantly, what are the audit tools that has been provided in detail. Then in the governance aspect, what we did is that is somewhere, redefining the corporate purpose in the new age of responsibility. And there we have done a very beautiful, we would say some sort of an analysis with the atom versus gravity. And we try to, link it with the scientific, this solar system model. So here it revisits the corporate performance and it presents a shift towards the cross-sectoral leadership. So there are rights and duties of shareholders, the overview of the corporate governance in Indian law. So till when we talk about corporate governance, we primarily talk about auditors and directors, but this is about governance of E and S also. So what are the responsible governance initiatives and what is the role of the board? And particularly emphasizing on the leadership styles of impact leader. In today's era, when we expect businesses to come forward not just for disclosing or compliance in letter, but compliance in spirit and becoming and showcasing rather an impact leadership, right? Wherein they are conscious about their objective. There is a key, vision, mission, and the objective of an organization, but there is also an ESG strategy and the risk management policy. So as we all know that the risk and reward has to be very beautifully managed. So this provides that, a detail on those particular aspects. Then the governance of sustainability issues. What are the governance disclosures under the key frameworks? And here we have gone even to some international frameworks because the companies operating cross-jurisdictional have been following all those international frameworks such as GRI and IR and etc. Then the global best practices in corporate governance also has been discussed in detail here. So with this, we have talked about the ESG trends and challenges. What are the latest international developments happening? For example, we right now we are aware about the corporate sustainability due diligence directive. This is a EU CSD D3, which is yet to come. I think it may come in March or April. That's what we are hearing. So what is the impact of that particular regulation to the Indian businesses? So it's everything is ESG. So when we say the word ESG, the business and human rights, the corporate social responsibility, that all becomes a part of one of the pillar. And when we say there's this new regulations coming, how much preparedness is there in Indian businesses, right? So that's what the kind of the trends we have included and the challenges, how companies and any professional, not just business, any professional who is a ESG professional can do that, and how the one can become an impact leadership. So that provides ultimate sort of a piece of work or a tool to help you. The next is can you see the So this is what I think we have discussed. I'm sorry, this slide. Just for your reference, when we talk about a fundamental responsibility, I think I talked about that. But this is important to also understand that it helps businesses towards monitoring and measuring of ESG practices, which I think the slides are just a second. Back, it's going forward. All right. One second, yeah. So, all right, I would now take a pause here, and probably I would request Dr. Raviraj Atrey, a co-author of this book, to talk about how beautifully we have analyzed the different theories. So he can speak now.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am. Very good afternoon, participants. So, Kriti, have you given the rights of speaking to the participants, or they can only write in the chat box? Maybe if you do not have the rights to speak, I would like to hear from you in the chat box. So I would just speak on 2 points, and these 2 points are the ESG adoption and ESG integration. So I would like to hear from you people first. When you hear the ESG adoption, what do you think about it? And when you hear about the ESG integration, what comes to your mind? If you can write in the chat box briefly. Just the basic difference between the two terms. Any volunteers? So something is here. We will to your query on professional certification. Would you like to say something about the adoption and integration? Not really. Okay. So if you see basically the difference between adoption and integration of ESG, for adoption, there are a lot of tools available. We adopt the GRI, we adopt the national guidelines on responsible business conduct, various other guidelines, standards, law, etc. to our businesses. When it comes to the integration, this is a big question. We find it difficult how to integrate ESG into our businesses. For integration, we take help of theories, the philosophies, and the models. You might have seen some of the examples. If you see the example of the Tatas, the business of Tata was based on a theory or a philosophy of trusteeship. Okay, you can see what is the brand value of Tata's today. You can also see some other deep-rooted businesses like Tata, who started their business with a particular philosophy or theory. So here we also understand the importance of a theory or a philosophy. We have seen various theories, philosophies, and models in the past. Various scholars have propounded those theories. Various business houses have adopted those theories. Okay, and today there is a need to come up with a new theory as per the requirements of the time. Today, when we enter in a new age of responsibility, as this new theory in this book, Demystifying ESG, denotes, we have to act in accordance with the requirements of that time so that our survival on the earth can be ensured. The purpose of sustainability leads to businesses towards the trust. And trust is a basic factor which helps in brand building of a business. And we all understand that the basic purpose of the businesses, when all businesses were started, the basic purpose was to earn the profit. And how the businesses maximized to earn the profit, that was due to the trust they earned among the customers, trust they earned among the investors and other stakeholders. Today, in the age of responsibility, the businesses who are sustainable, who have adopted sustainable practices, they earn the trust among various stakeholders. And trust is the only factor responsible for building great brands today, that we have to understand. I hope you all will agree with me on this. Now let's discuss about the theory of responsibility. Let me move to the slide. Yeah. When we talk about the theory of responsibility, we studied several other previous theories first, and then we this new theory of responsibility. I'm not going deep into those aspects of analysis of previous theories. We'll just understand key phenomenon in this theory of responsibility. So, for example, we say that ethical behavior is at the core of individual mindset. So when we say that ethical behavior is at the core of individual mindset, our purpose behind saying this is that any organization, any business organization is made by individuals, is run by individuals. Okay. And if individuals are ethical in their behavior, if they have integrated the ethical behavior, their core personalities, into the core of their mindsets, then the impact of that integration will be different in the organizational functioning. Here we see link between responsibility and ethics in the second phenomenon. There is a assumption, and various research studies have also been conducted on this aspect, that the people who are ethical are also responsible people. Can you imagine that if someone has an ethical mindset, follows ethical principles, and that person can harm other people, can harm the environment, can harm the systems, the governance, the processes we follow in our society? No. So there is a very strong link between the ethics and responsibility. So in this theory, the core is ethics. So the ethics first is followed by individuals. Then individuals together form the organization. The organization practices, organizational culture, the philosophy of organization, how organization impacts the stakeholders, how the policies within the organizations are formed, how organization derive its strategy. So these all aspects are derived from the ethically motivated individuals. So the individuals we may divide at two levels. At one level, there are individuals at the leadership roles. We may say at the governance level. Then there are those individuals who implement the policy, who run the business, who do the manufacturing process, who do the marketing, sales, etc. So at those two levels, the one level, the leadership level, will define the policies, strategy, etc. So once those people will be ethical, they will derive the right policies for the organization, for the stakeholders. And ethical here is being ethical towards the society, being ethical towards the planet, environment, governance, etc. So whole that ESG comes into the definition of ESG itself. So the individual responsible behavior to collective impact, the third phenomenon we talk about, that once all individuals follow the responsible behavior, then we see the collective impact, and then organizational responsibility we talk about, and we say the areas of responsibility. Why say areas of responsibility? Because is of crisis. Why there was a crisis? Because we are witnessing various environmental impacts, climate change, natural resources of the earth. We that we not keep those resources to our next generations, to our upcoming generations. Have been an aspect that we continue exploiting this, and will be no resources to use for this. This is not a written mandate. There might not be any law, but there is an unwritten mandate to be responsible. If you will not be responsible today, you will not find a future for your children tomorrow. So being responsible today is an unwritten mandate. For businesses, this mandate is from requirement on businesses that if you follow certain environmental, social, governance aspects, then only they will make the investment in a particular business. The consumers are being more aware towards purchasing, consuming only those commodities and services which are produced or provided in ethical manner, which do not harm the environment, the society, people. Then there is also pressure from other stakeholders groups like community at large, from the government and employees also. So there are multiple stakeholders who have made this pressure and have mandated a business to be responsible. So the age of responsibility, in summary, is that without being responsible, our existence is not possible. So it is mandatory today. The theory hypothesis within this theory is that it is based on a hypothesis that the individual ethical behavior leads to desired outcome of sustainability and ESG. This is the core of this theory. If we talk about the assumption we have followed in this theory, the assumption here is that once an individual is ethical in his or her conduct, he has adopted ethical principle in his her core personality, he or she will do all the actions as per rational and logical thoughts. These actions will not harm the social structures, the institutions, the environment, and other ecosystems around the human being in his or her areas of influence. We follow the originality approach within this theory. What is the originality approach? Let's come again to that aspect of adoption versus integration. When we talk about adoption, we are already running a business. We have an existing organization. Then someone says some requirement has been posed by an investor that you have to follow the BRSR report. Then only we will invest in your business. Then there is a particular buyer in the US or in some other country. That buyer has posed a requirement that kindly follow these ESG parameters. Then only we will buy products from you. So in that case, what people usually do, what businesses usually do, that they adopt certain principles, certain approaches, not approaches, but certain instruments. And that adoption sometimes leads them towards the greenwashing. So that is not an originality of a business when they are doing the greenwashing, when they are adopting. So adoption tools are for helping the businesses so that they can integrate well and they can disclose well the ESG aspects. But the integration is most important here. And how we do integration with the originality approach is that we follow the philosophy, we integrate the environmental social governance principles in the core philosophy of the business. And how we do that, I would refer earlier model propounded in exploring CSR. That CSR, they are not the mean of CSR as per the Companies Act, CSR as per the global phenomena. So the tree model propounded by me in my earlier book, if you see, that denotes the originality approach. So that businesses are not required to do greenwashing. If they are original, they can easily gain the trust of several stakeholders. So briefly, if you say, for example, if in that tree we discuss the sustainable development goals, the ethics and values as core of the business, SDGs as driving force, responsible business philosophy as the root of the tree. So these three roots business should follow. On these three roots, a business should stand. They should make their objectives, strategy, action plans based on these three roots. Then if we talk about the value chain and the supply chain and the production and other processes of the business, then under the tree, the timber of the tree denotes all the supply chain and production processes. So water, when we rope a seed into the soil, then basic three requirements we should have: the water, air, and the sunlight. So sunlight we denote as the business regulations, water we denote as the investment in the businesses, and air we denote as the consumption demand, air of consumption demand. So all three things come and they give those certain aspects to that seed to grow in that environment. And then when that tree grows, it gives the equal label to all the responsibilities: environmental, legal, ethical, economic, and social responsibilities. And then several fruits comes from that tree, and that those fruits are sustainable fruits. Why we are talking that the branches of the tree are in form of environmental, legal, social, and economic responsibilities, and how that model came into the existence, that is based on the study of various previous models. So the previous model, if we see, those were developed in the West. Those model were in the layers. There were pyramidal layers and or other layers. So they prioritize the responsibilities of a business. Say, for example, several scholars said that the earning the profit or the economic responsibility is the only responsibility of the business. So that should be at the core, and the social responsibility should be at the last. So instead of keeping those responsibilities in a manner that that are we have to make some preferences, we kept all the responsibilities equal in the tree model. So tree model is a basis to adopt the originality approach, how a business can adopt the originality approach that you will find in the book itself. So, ethical or responsible behavior is integrated in the core philosophy of organizations, and values are at core of the purpose and existence of the organizations. The organizations will follow an originality approach and will act in responsible manner by its core essence. Then we have not to follow the greenwashing or certain other practices. There will not be any need for just cosmetic actions or greenwashing, right? Then we talk about the integrate and practice responsible conduct under this theory. When we talk about integrating and practicing responsible conduct, we talk about people and policies in the organizations. So, when we look at the organization, we see that there are policies in the organizations, and then there are people in the organizations. So, the policies and people both constitute that how that organization will function or how that organization will be perceived by the stakeholders. There are people at leadership and governance level we already discussed, and there are people at the implementation level, and we expect these two people to be ethical, and the people at leadership will define the policies, people at the implementation level will implement or run the business. Then in the theory, we talk about the responsible capitalism, a new thing. We have seen the socialist or capitalist form. We have studied those two forms. So ethical individuals to ethical organization, that transition we have studied in this theory, that how ethical individuals form ethical organizations. And when the organizations follow the ethical practices, then a new system of economy will emerge. When all organizations are ethical mean they are following the E, S, and G in their core essence. Then the entire economy will become the ethical economy, and we will term it as a responsible economy. We have already witnessed green economies or other such concepts, but with this ethics integrated into the individuals, leading to the organizations, and from organizations to the economy, we will find a new economy of responsible economy. The new theory and practice of responsible capitalism will emerge from that practice only. There are two aspects. Once we talk about new adaptation of economic system or any new system, there are two ways. The one way is, first the theory is propounded by someone, then it is adopted by the individuals and organizations and the governments. And we saw this in the cases of socialism and capitalism, that how the propounders propounded those theories and these were adopted by several countries. Then there is another aspect. Then the things come into the practice first, and then it becomes a phenomenon. So today we saw that this sustainability or ESG came into the practice first. We all have started adopting the ESG, and then we have created this theory of new age of responsibility with responsible capitalism. So these are two different phenomena to adopt such things. Now we come to the model. Let me move the slide. May not be very clear, but I will denote what the model is. So I already briefed you about the previous model, how there were layers of responsibilities in the previous models. And there were other models also in the sustainability. We say IUCN's AG model and different other models we have studied before propounding this model. So the aspects of businesses are interconnected and balanced system in this model. And we call this the solar system model. And the solar system is the businesses, and businesses are surviving only as a result of following the rules of the solar system. Okay, so this solar system, we can see the solar system is a business unit or the businesses together. Okay, so in this solar system, the sun acts as the business environment. We all study the business environment and we practice it. We practice the businesses within a business environment in a country. So, following the rules of solar system, a business can survive. And gravity plays an important role in defining the rules of the law of solar system. The attempt has been made in this model to establish an irrefutable connection between the business and ESG. We just want to say that business and ESG are not different. Without ESG, today no business is possible. We have certain assumptions in the model. For the purpose of this model, we consider the businesses as solar system. In the solar system, the planets are at appropriate distance from each other so as to maintain the astronomical equilibrium. Planets in the solar system are employees, community, consumer, investors, regulators, value chain, etc. So each planet denotes one stakeholder in this system. We consider sun as the business environment. ESG is considered as the gravitational force. We can interchangeably use the term solar system or universe within this system for the ease of discussions. So here we discuss about certain aspects, the gravitational force as the ESG way of doing business, and the universal twin flame connection of ESG and business. So before going into that, we just need to understand that how this solar system will function well. It will coordinate with several stakeholders because the gravitational force is ESG. If we adopt ESG well, we will be able to balance with each of the stakeholders. We will be able to earn good profits. So before deep into that, we need to understand more aspects of the solar system, of the universe by the atoms. At three electron, proton, and neutron. This model is what the atom, in this atom we consider as the, and neutron as the investments. That E equal to mc square and other theories, and that atom can be divided into these days. There are theories which say parts. And then we find that of the universe. Beyond the physical universe, what is the consciousness? Okay. So if you see how the consciousness of business is made, the consciousness is made by two parts, and these two parts are purpose and profit. And these days, we all say the tagline that purpose before profit is the only purpose of the businesses. With this, I will stop here and I will hand over to Professor
Right. So moving further, from here, after explaining the introductory part and the deep analysis of the theories and the new solar system model, let us now quickly understand that, as a impact leader or as a ESG professional, how would you begin your ESG journey? You know? So to understand that, I would just briefly highlight that the ESG business strategy needs to be developed, and keeping in mind that first thing is to develop a baseline on the ESG programs, policies, and metrics which is available in the company. Some of the indicative issue which we may quote here is that about health and safety, environmental performance, energy, ethical sourcing, because nowadays there's a lot of emphasis of the responsible procurement also, diversity and inclusion, and the social impact programs. After doing our own study, that developing the baseline, basically that helps to understand where we are. Next is to understand where your peer companies are, right? So what they are doing, and then accordingly set your ESG goals for your company. So define, so it's not just a setting a goal and writing in English, but it's about defining the process to be adopted in setting the goals. Stakeholder engagement, institutional arrangements, genesis of the work, materiality assessment, rationale for the goals, and finalizing then the qualitative and the quantitative goals. So it's like, even I remember we even teach to our kids at home or younger siblings that the goal has to be SMART, right? Specific, measurable, and all. So that is very precisely what we are trying to highlight. Then about understanding the implementation modalities, right? So preparing a plan, implementation strategy, setting the milestones, and as well as the monitoring indicators. So the MIS also plays a huge role. What would be the reviewing modalities, how employees will be engaged, and then even for monitoring, have you built the capacity of your company executives, right? And then comes to communicating your ESG philosophy in actions, right? So when you implement it, it's very important that how you communicate, because ultimately it's not you alone. You need to even set benchmarks for others, right? You need to get the faith, not just the investors, but your employees, your community, everybody. So what will be the modalities for the disclosures? What standards or guidelines you're going to follow? And what would be your communication strategy? That's again a 1 hour, at least a 1 hour discussion. So a detailed set of information, analysis, the methodology that has been discussed in this book also. Then if we talk about, particularly, I'm sure that you all are also a little more interested in understanding the materiality assessment. But before going too deep into that, quickly, if I would say that, conducting baseline, the entire method has been given, that how to gather information on your ESG reality. So it's a reality check. And then second is about peer benchmarking is again, we do a lot of this as an assignments to understand, on frame your parameters and then do the 3 peer company analysis. That helps a business, a professional to frame their own goals and objectives. Then when we talk about materiality assessment, it is the identification of issues that impact the businesses, with a reasonable investor may consider while making investment decision. And this information may be used by the multi-stakeholder to assess the business for various engagements. Now, how to do materiality assessment? We do 3-day training program on this thing. So it won't be possible to take a deep dive into it. But particularly, there are nowadays a lot of emphasis on the double materiality assessment, which determines that the ESG factors to disclose based on their actual or expected effect on business value. So double materiality includes both impact materiality and the financial materiality. It is very important tool for the materiality assessment, right? Now, quickly, impact materiality means it including externalities, which means an inside-out impact, and it consider both positive and negative impact on people, planet, and society for a short, medium, and a long term. And financial materiality includes measuring, managing, and reporting on ESG issues that have a positive or negative impact on the financial performance of the company. So then, quickly, I think I need to sum it up. We have then, setting targets and KPIs also. That's again a very important. So for that, we have even included, I won't say an exhaustive, but a list of policies which the businesses should have under the each pillar, E, S, and G. That's an indicative. It's not an exhaustive one, but that provides a checklist for policies that are relevant to ESG in businesses. Then setting the target and KPIs also, we have tried to bifurcate it into the three dimensions of E, S, and G. For example, if we talk about carbon emissions, metrics related to GHG emissions, such as CO2 emission per unit of production or emission reduction targets, right? So water uses, we can have metrics that quantify the water consumption, the conservation efforts, and the water recycling rates. Similarly, we have for social diversity metrics, including gender, ethnicity, and age. Governance includes, as one is highlighted, ethics and compliance, then even anti-corruption efforts and board diversity. All that has been discussed in detail. And implementation, measuring, audit index, right? So let me just quickly talk about audit. Nowadays, we see the SEBI has released something on a BRSR assurance. So there's a lot of emphasis on getting a third-party verification, because ultimately it's like scoring your own answer sheet. So it's always advisable to have a third-party saying that. So, and there are guidelines and there are ways, specific rating agencies and everything. The guidelines have been issued by ESG. So this includes a detailed understanding of that. And last but not least, as I mentioned, that communication and branding. Branding is again altogether a very, very heavy topic to talk in 2 minutes. So, but that this is going to help the businesses to, evolve their ESG journey and achieve their own objectives. Just to mention the questions which was asked earlier in the chat box, though I just briefly responded, is about SDG. So somebody has asked that, is it only an extended version of SDG? I would say that ESG also aims to achieve SDG, but then the businesses have their own limitations, and businesses needs a framework within their own core operation that how they can contribute towards this journey. So therefore, it is a very specifically 3-dimension or 3-pillar approach, and not a very, very, a broad approach, but it's very well aligned with SDGs. Yes. We are open for any 1 or 2 questions, or you can even mail us. We would be happy to take that. I think with this, we would close this session here. Any question? Okay, this one. How the valuation of materiality is assessed. So we have given some examples here in our book about the materiality assessment in detail, that how materiality mapping has to be done and how few of the companies have done. So as I mentioned, that in today's era, we are talking about double materiality. So the businesses are focusing on both the impact materiality and the financial materiality. And as I said, that we do a capacity building program just on this for minimum 2 days, how to do materiality assessment. So yeah. There are no guideline as such. There are a lot of if you just see, the BRSR reports of some companies and try to understand their materiality assessment process. So every company has their unique process. But universally, as I mentioned, that the concept and this double materiality thing coming up has been referred. So just refer to their BRSR and do some sort of a analysis of 2-3 companies together, and you will understand that how they have done. And but it's very subject to, it's very unique. There can't be a one size fit all thing. Materiality means prioritizing what for your business, what matters the most. For that, It has to be a customized, specifically done for your business owner. There are tools and matrices available. I think we've answered this. Kriti, over to you. If there are any questions, we would be happy to take that.
Yeah. Thank you, speakers, for your outstanding presentation and a clear and concise explanation of the subject matter. We greatly appreciate the effort you have put into making this session a success. I would also like to thank the participants for their cooperation and contribution. We could have not done it without you. Although we have attempted to address
Kriti, can you hear me?
Yes. Am I audible? Okay.
Right. So thanks. Thank you, everyone. I was asked to have a hard stop at 4, so we tried to just give you a summarized version of the entire thing, but certainly it requires a lot more of discussion, but it's a pleasure to share the summary of demystifying ESG.
Thank you so
And
much.
I would like to thank Taxmann as well.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Have a wonderful time.
Kriti, will you be closing it?
Yes, ma'am. We have done the closing. I think I am not audible to you, or I'm not sure whether I'm audible or not.
Now you are. Now you are audible, Kriti. Now you are.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for the insight. Thank you, speakers, for the outstanding presentation and a clear and concise explanation of the subject matter. We greatly appreciate the effort that you have put into making this session a success. So, although we have attempted to address the queries raised during the session, please feel free to send any additional queries in writing to sales@taxmann.com. Thank you all again. We look forward to presenting another vital topic to you soon. Until then, take care and have a wonderful time. Thank you.